Minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And first, I'd like to thank Chairwoman Johnson for convening this important hearing. The climate challenges facing humanity are large, and unfortunately, serious debate on the best path forward has often been stifled by the politicization of this issue, at least in this committee. For years, too often, we found ourselves wasting time arguing with non-technical witnesses about, for example, whether or not it's a matter of scientific debate, whether or not it would be a good thing if the Greenland ice sheet melted. So I was really thrilled to see some of the changes that appear to be occurring in this committee. Over the last several years, I have to say, on a personal note, I've grown truly tired of introducing myself as the only PhD natural scientist in the U.S. Congress. And to that end, I am thrilled to welcome onto the committee and into Congress Dr. Jim Baird as the second PhD natural scientist in the U.S. Congress. And I would also like to congratulate my Republican colleagues on their wisdom in appointing him as the ranking member of the Research Subcommittee. More to that point, I'd also like to thank Ranking Member Lucas and my Republican colleagues for selecting Dr. Maket as their witness for this hearing. He's someone with a PhD in relevant science, and someone with views which are inside the scientific mainstream, and that's refreshing. He's also someone, obviously, who understands that the question here is not whether or not this problem is real, but rather what is the most cost-effective way of solving it. And that is a refreshing change, because on this committee, we have to look deeply at the balance of research and policy spending to solve this problem. In terms of that, the best way forward, particularly the newer members on the committee will be faced with just a mountain of things that have been written on this. And what I consider the best synthesis that I've seen was actually presented by former Energy Secretary Moniz in his testimony to the Senate last week. In a report that he highlighted by the Energy Futures Initiative, which he's one of the leaders on, entitled Advancing the Landscape of Clean Energy Innovation, really, to my mind, touches the main points of what knobs we should be operating in our government, both in terms of technological research, private sector efforts, and public-private partnerships to solve this problem. And so, I would at this point like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the report of the Energy Futures Initiative entitled Advancing the Landscape of the Clean Energy Innovation.
Without objection.
And so now I actually have one technical question for the entire panel. It seems to me that one of the changes in the last several years in the thinking on climate is the rising of the profile of methane as a significant greenhouse gas. That if you look at the impressive progress, apparent progress in the decarbonization of the U.S., a big part of that's by converting coal to natural gas use. And it now appears true that a large single-digit percentage of the methane that we burn actually gets vented directly to the atmosphere before combustion. And so if that is true, the fact that it's such a potent greenhouse gas really negates a lot of the progress in converting coal to natural gas. And apparently the technology to detect the thousands of small methane leaks is tough, and it's not going to be cheap. So I wonder if you had any thinking on what we do about the methane problem and where the research that could really make a difference there would be. We can just go down the line if you wanted.
Dr. Marlott wants to. Yeah, I mean, I think we're sort of throwing money away and hurting the environment when you have natural gas leaks, and there has been a lot of discussion about how large those leaks are. There are all the incentives are there to try to solve those problems, and if it's not happening, that might be a good area for this committee to figure out how to push it along.
Yeah, I think one of the difficulties I've heard pronounced is that it's simply, finding a very large number of small leaks is not cost-effective in terms of the savings in natural gas, and that's one of the things that makes it tough, at least with current technology.
So I would just like to bring up another issue related to methane, and that is the fact that the permafrost areas in the high Arctic are warming dramatically. We expect to see a lot more thawing happen, And when permafrost thaws, the biological material that's frozen in those soils can decompose then and become either methane or carbon dioxide. And we're seeing the warming happening much faster up there, in general, in the Arctic overall. And the loss of sea ice, which is a clear symptom of global warming, is contributing to the acceleration of that thawing of the permafrost. So this is another issue that I think we need to take very seriously, especially in the methane discussion.
Thank you. And it
Mr.
appears
Foster,
like-
your time has expired. I'd now like to recognize Mr. Bell.